Hello, and welcome to the Investor Guys Podcast, the ultimate podcast for serious real estate investors in the know. Join your host, Bill Barnett and Kevin Mills, as they share their expert insights, strategies, and tips to help you succeed in the world of real estate investing. Get ready to level up your investment game with the Investor Guys Podcast. And now, here are your hosts, Bill Barnett and Kevin Mills.
Hey, Bill, how's it going?
It is going incredibly well. Thank you, sir. Welcome to the Investor Guys Podcast. This is my compadre here, Mr. Kevin Mills. I'm Bill Barnett. Thanks for being with us today. So what's on the agenda today?
You know, I wanted to follow through on what we discussed a couple of days ago, and that was how our political, really, when you think about it, it's economical also, but the politics are driving the economy at this point. The political and economic changes that we have seen this year, how they are affecting us as real estate investors. So what we need to do right now to protect ourselves and what we need to do looking into the future to make sure that we're going to stay on the right track and we're still going to have money in our pocket. And we were talking about this a little bit before we went on the air. The atmosphere, the coronavirus, the politics, everything that we are seeing play out right now has demonstrated how fractured and how broken our economic structure and foundation is. If you have a small business that is not doing well, I don't want to say not doing well, you may have been doing well before all of this, but unless you have a huge structure that you can rely upon, the slightest little thing can pull that carpet from beneath you.
Yep.
And we keep hearing people say, the rich are getting rich through all of this and the poor are getting poorer, just going broke. And that's because they don't have a foundation, a solid foundation to stand on. And that dates back to, them and their education and not being taught what to do and have, savings to stand on and have investments to stand on. And that really goes to the core of what we as real estate investors need to strive for. And that is solid investments and a solid foundation that's going to keep money coming in month over month, literally, not just year over year, but month over month, because our bills stack up on us on a monthly basis. And I never understood why we couldn't just pay our bills every year. It'd be happier that way, but every single month. And the older we get, it seems like it was just yesterday that we paid that bill. Every single month, we have to pay those bills. So we need monthly income that's going to come in and support basically us living, but let alone a lifestyle if we become accustomed to a lifestyle.
Well, we were all taught, and probably most of the people listening, watching were taught, hey, you know what? Stick some money aside for a rainy day. Well, it's not a rainy day. It's Category 5 hurricane, and it's not moving. It's over our head. It's staying. And until we get through the election, it's going to get nuts, and it could get nutsier, if that's a word, after the election. But yeah, so there's been a great, incredible lesson that's been taught us and opened our eyes during this whole thing, and that is if you don't have dependable passive income, you're screwed. Because we've now seen that something that Kevin may not have, I certainly would not have believed could ever have happened unless you said somebody dropped a nuclear bomb on us.
Except in Hollywood.
Okay, shut down. We got to figure out, regroup, and where we go. But for this thing to have in just a couple of weeks, because really it just kind of exploded mid-March with, oh my gosh, this is the worst thing that's ever happened. It's worse than the Black Plague and all, which is all BS. And whether you agree with it or not, I don't care. I have my opinion, and my opinion is this is the largest load of BS. And once we get into if Trump wins the election, one of the things I hope happens after the election is they go back and they make these counties identify truly what the number is. Because if you have any kind of symptom at all, they tag you as a COVID death, as opposed to, hey, the guy got hit by a truck. He died of COVID. and that's the way it is. So the numbers are shockingly inflated, and that's to keep us fearful so that the government can take over everything. And that's not the Trump government. That is the left. That's the Democrats. This is all my opinion. Don't like it. That's okay. But something that has been shown to us as investors is, hey, this thing can literally get flipped off and turned off just like a light switch. And what's going to happen to us if it happens? Because you can mark my words, you can write it down on the calendar somewhere. This is going to happen again. And if the Democrats win, it's going to happen again next year if it doesn't happen again before the year's out. It's already happened in New York where Cuomo's come in and basically shut the state down again. They're trying to, and you have to look at what's the reasoning. It's not Corona. The reasoning is to put the small business people out of business. Cuomo said several months ago on one of his press conferences that maybe it's time we look at giving up private property ownership in the U.S. And that's a whole part of socialism, Marxist communism, that whole thing. So all of that's happening, and you and I have to be out of business. We have to be out of work. We have to be in a position where we have to depend on the government for them to be able to do those things. Now, one of the ways that we can depend on the government and not fit into the Marxist socialist communist regime is by Section 8. Now, we're getting close to a break here, is by having the government as our client and not us having to depend on the government from a handout standpoint, but from a doing business standpoint. Section 8 is an incredible way to do that. When we come back from the break, we're going to get into more about how you protect yourself going forward. Doesn't matter whether you are Republican or Democrat, doesn't matter, because this will rear its head again. And there's a great likelihood that we're going to get shut down again. And if Biden wins, it's going to happen. It may happen before the year's out, all under the name of COVID. And so you've got to have a way to be able to get some income coming in. Hang around. We'll get more.
We'll be right back.
Thank you for watching the Investor Guys podcast.
reallykevin.com. Weekly recorded coaching sessions. Learn, grow, find resources, opportunities, and more. You'll find it all at reallykevin.com.
Absolution X. Limited editions. Seek your absolution. Lifestyle apparel like no other. Only at absolutionx.com.
Live the resort lifestyle every day with Cayman K. The perfect pieces for every wardrobe. Shop the entire Cayman K collection and find your favorites. Find all our styles at CaymanK.com.
And we're back. And for a while, Bill, I felt like you needed the waving flag in the background there for your patriotism speech.
That's right. I was listening for you to say, preach on, brother, preach on.
And you know what? Honestly, politics aside, I'm going to make one political statement here. And as you know, I do a political show, and thank you for joining me the other day on that. And what I said the other day, we need more patriots in this country. We need more patriots. And one way to be a patriot is to have freedom. And freedom is not free, unfortunately. And I'm not talking about just the lives that, people put on the line to fight for our freedom and everything else, but I'm talking about having the ability to do what we want to do and having the ability to control our life and where our life is going and be able to speak up. If we don't have some financial freedom, sometimes we're forced to kind of be quiet. I've been reading a lot of stories about companies that are telling their employees that they need to vote a certain way because it's going to benefit their company or because that's what the CEO thinks or whatever else. If you don't work for a company, you don't have to deal with that at all. No one can tell you how to vote, first of all, but you don't have to deal with that at all. You won't be on Facebook writing that post because you don't have those emails coming in from your HR department.
And thank God as far as we know, they can't actually tell who you voted for. That's still a private thing as far as we know.
Yeah. And again, getting off on the political tangent, what I was trying to point out was freedom is easily bought. And we do that every day with, money that we make. And thank you to our armed forces also who pay for that with their lives and their careers and everything else. But having an income that we can count on is huge. And what Bill was getting at just before we went on our break is government housing. Government pays, unfortunately, for a lot of us conservatives, it pays for people to live, whether it subsidizes 100% or a portion of their rent. It is called Section 8. And it is the way that we as investors can make money from the government. We can benefit from, there's my light ring hitting me in the head. We can benefit from taxpayer money being paid to us by providing services to the federal government and to individuals who need it. Sorry, I'm making sure that doesn't whack me in the head again. And that's Section 8. And one of the things that Bill and I have talked about before, sorry, I'm getting back into my group, that we had talked about before was I am not as affected as a lot of other investors because I am heavily invested in Section 8 cash flow properties. I am still getting my checks, my rent checks, month in and month out from Uncle Sam because they're still paying their bills. There are tenants who are 6, 8, 9 months late on their rent. And now they are facing evictions. Those landlords don't want to evict those tenants. The tenants aren't going to be able to pay them those 9 months. So those landlords are out of that cash. I don't have that situation. I am invested enough in cash flowing Section 8 that I have a strong, solid background. Now, one of the things that we wanted to talk about getting into this is to change direction. Section 8, of course, but we're seeing our politics and our economy driving people out of certain states and into other states. And ironically, the people are being driven out of blue states and into red states. So we're seeing mass exoduses from California, from Illinois, from Maryland, from New York, from New Jersey, all, even Pennsylvania, the eastern side of Pennsylvania, all going to red states like Florida and Texas and Idaho, and Nevada is kind of a purple state, I guess, at this point, Arizona. Those are things that we need to keep in mind as we invest. It's not going to be as strong an investment if we are investing in a market that is losing people by the millions, so much as it is if we're investing in a market that's gaining people by the millions. So what I'm saying is California right now might not be a great place to invest. Texas and Florida, however, might be, because we have so many people coming into those markets. Now, this just kind of an aside here, because Bill and I both like poking fun at California. I just moved from California in the last year. Bill used to be a resident of California. Did you see where Governor Newsom actually was begging people to stay in California?
Yeah, I saw that. Then I saw where they had, I don't know if it's actually passed or if it's just been proposed, that if you move, they're going to attempt to tax you for 10 years after you leave the state.
How could they even do that?
Oh, that'll just, attorneys are just giddy over conversations like that, because they're like, oh man, this topic I can retire on because there'll be so many court cases on that.
Yeah, but here's the thing. California does not care about double taxation. And this gets into another real estate point. Those of you who live in California, you are familiar with Mello-Roos. Mello-Roos was named after two gentlemen, Mello and Roos, who felt like it wasn't fair that they have to pay more taxes when there's a development in the area. So if you've got a residential project coming up in your area, your city, okay, obviously the demand on school, fire, police, everything, it increases. And they need to hire more policemen, they need to hire more firemen, they need to hire more teachers or build another school. Normally, in every other 49 states, that's absorbed into your regular taxes that you pay on your property taxes. In California, you pay your regular property taxes, and on top of your regular property taxes, you pay what's called a mello-roos. And a mello-roos is supposed to offset those additional costs. It's actually it's double taxation, which is illegal. What Bill is talking about, California wanting to tax people 10 years after they move, it's what we fought our Revolutionary War over, and that's taxation without representation. We have no representation any longer in California. There's no reason they would be able to tax us. It's just what's going on in this world is crazy, and I guess that's the point we're trying to make, and we'll get more into it right after this break. And we've gone all kinds of directions on this show. I don't even know if we can call it a real estate show anymore. We'll be back in a minute.
We'll be right back.
Thank you for watching the Investor Guys podcast.
Absolution X. Limited editions. Lifestyle apparel like none other. Get yours today at absolutionx.com.
Live the resort lifestyle every day with Cayman K. The perfect pieces for every wardrobe. Shop the entire Cayman K collection and find your favorites. Find all our styles at caymank.com.
Get ready for power, for success, for solutions and answers. It's all in one place, www.reallykevin.com. Education, opportunities, coaching, and so much more.
And we're back. We're going to try to get back on track. Essentially, the situation that we're looking at is unique to us in 2020. But that's not to say that it can't happen again. And it's not to say that it's not going to happen again. Now that they have figured out that they can do this and they can control us, they're going to be looking for as many different ways to do this.
Yep.
The way that you can safeguard yourself, your health, your finances, your mental wellness is to not be dependent upon an economy that they're going to control, strings that they're going to pull, and handouts from the government. Best way to do that is investing in real estate. And as Bill and I mentioned, one of the things that we like is Section 8. I'm going to let you pick it up because I kind of jabbered the whole last section.
Well, what's going to happen with
I'll
Section
get the flag
8
ready for you.
is that it's going to explode as we go forward. First of all, the real estate market in and of itself, we're due a downturn. It's going to happen. It's already happening. Yeah, it'll catch up with us. Certainly, by this time next year, the real estate market will likely be extremely flat, if not already in the going down, with everybody knowing it's going down, but it's going down already if you know what to look for and what to look at. When that happens, naturally, rental increases, and when the rentals increase, a portion of that increase will fall into the Section 8 category. Now you take that happening naturally, and then what's going to happen with the massive amount of people that have lost their business, lost their income, lost their job with this we've been going on pretty much all of 2020 so far, then that explosion in the Section 8 market is going to be huge. And if you're not taking advantage of that, you're going to look back and you're going to go, man, I missed it. And I don't think we're going to be able to keep up with it. It demands that there's a huge growth in the number of Section 8 properties. And look, you can take advantage of the market, and I don't mean take advantage of it in a bad way. I mean take advantage of it in the fact that here's a need. The greatest marketing principle in the world is find a need and fill it. It's so simple, but pure truth. Well, there is a huge need that's going to be getting bigger and bigger, and that's Section 8. Join us in filling that need and be able to take a financial breath, understanding that, hey, you know what? If the government stops paying their bills, whether you've got a job at any institution on the planet becomes immaterial. You could be a big shot at Amazon. If the government stops paying their bills, your job is going to be meaningless. So I don't think that's going to happen. Kevin doesn't think that's going to happen. So be where you can be in the flow of money. That's a thing that I learned many, many years ago. My professional training is investment banking. And one of the things you always want to get in front of is the flow of money. Where's money going? Can I get into that stream of money so that some of it can stick to me? Section 8 is a great way to do that.
And interject really quick. We have a buyer's event coming up. Most of you already know that, in Cleveland. Our primary focus in Cleveland is Section 8. But for the rest of you, for everybody else, okay, Bill and I are going to commit to putting together a Section 8 workshop. So we'll put together a Section 8 workshop. We'll make that available on the Investor Guys podcast website. Okay, we'll work on that. It probably won't be for another month or so before we get that put together. But we're going to put together a Section 8 website that will be available for anybody who wants to take that. If you want to do boots on the ground, actually be able to purchase properties on the ground in Cleveland, the buyer's event in November is the place to do that. Another thing I really want to point out to all of you, and it's on topic, but it's getting off the topic of Section 8. You guys need to, as investors, start writing as many letters as you can to your congressmen and to your senators. There is no reason. Now, the CARES Act actually provided for a portion of rent relief. Okay. There is no reason why they cannot provide rent relief as part of the next bill, as opposed to eviction relief and foreclosure relief. So they could be putting together subsidies to help pay rents, to help pay mortgages, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. As landlords, if you have tenants and they're getting subsidies to pay their rent, that's almost as good as Section 8. Now, it's not going to last for forever. It's just going to be until this pandemic is over. But the way that you get that message, the way you put that bug into the ear of your congressman and your senator, is to start writing as many letters and as many emails as you can and get as many other investors that you know of to start doing the same. So they start saying, you know what, instead of doing, some sort of forgiveness plan where ultimately the investor is paying for it, let's start giving them, rental money so they can actually start getting this paid. Wouldn't you rather get half of your rent or 3/4 of your rent rather than none of it? Unfortunately, the prevailing theme of politics, especially from the left, is that the landowners, the people who are doing business, the rich, they need to pay for the people who don't do anything. So the people who don't want to pay their rent, the people who don't want to work, the people who don't want to do anything to contribute to society need to have their needs taken care of by those of us that have tried to do those things. And as many of you investors know, you can't afford to do that. You can't afford to take care of somebody else's family and your own family. Unfortunately, many of our politicians don't see it that way. They say, well, you're doing better than the person who's not making any money and sitting in their government housing and collecting food stamps. So you need to pay for it. Make your congressmen and your senators and Congress people aware of your concerns and your thoughts. Anything to add before we wrap up?
Yeah, if you do that, look, we're truly in this thing together. One of the things that you and I can do as aggressive real estate investors is to provide property for people that the government deems fit into the Section 8 housing programs. And in doing that, we become part of the solution. And that's the thing that I want to stress is look on how do I help? How can I help make our country better? One of the things that I can do to do that is be part of the solution. And part of the solution is because housing is such a crucial part of every American citizen's life, then if I can provide good housing for the Section 8 program, I can get paid a fair return, a good return on my money. We show you how to make it a great return, but anybody can make a good return on their funds and provide a service for our fellow citizens. And that makes our country better and stronger.
And in every metropolitan market in the United States, there is a shortage of Section 8 housing.
Every one of them.
Yeah, we could keep talking about this for hours and hours and hours. So we've got our next few show topics, I think, lined up. But we got to wrap it up today because we are going over. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you guys again soon on the Investor Guys podcast. Check us out, investorguyspodcast.com, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you for tuning in to the Investor Guys podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget to subscribe and stay updated on the latest trends and insights in the world of real estate investing. Also, don't forget to check us out and see all of our episodes at theinvestorguyspodcast.com. Email us, contact@investorguyspodcast.com. Remember, the key to financial success lies in staying informed and taking action. Stay tuned for our next episode, and until then, happy investing.